Peter Knight, thank you for joining us on Property Industry Eye.
Thank you for having me.
So many readers will know you from the Estate Agency and Lettings Agency of the Year Awards that were done with the Sunday Times. Obviously those were retired last year and replaced with the new awards, the Best Agent Guide. What's different about these awards?
Okay, so for 15 years we ran the, as you say, the Estate Agency and Letting Agency of the Year Awards in association with the Sunday Times. And despite the fact that we attracted more entries than any other awards in the UK, we still were only getting about a third of the market. And I'd always hoped that we could get this up to being whole of market. And that was a challenge that I've been wrestling with for several years. And so I got to a point where I realised that we're going to have to change the format, we're going to have to change the methodology if we're going to do a whole of market assessment. So the big thing that we started with was to say, what does the consumer want? What is it that the consumer is after? So we did a massive piece of research into what consumers actually look for when they're selecting an estate agent. And in fact, we've done this over a 10-year period. We've collated all this data. And then we decided, right, let's go out and investigate how estate agents actually do compared with what the consumer says is really important to her. So the biggest thing of all, and the reason why we made the change, was to go whole of market, which is what we've achieved now.
So a year on, and I'm looking at the second event now. Do you still feel this was the right thing to do?
Yeah, I do. I mean, some people said I was mad, and they may be right. I don't know. We've done 50,000 mystery shops. Several billion pieces of data have been reviewed as part of the process. So it's I think, fair to say, a Herculean task. But it feels right, and the feedback we've had from agents broadly has been hugely positive. We've had some critics, and I know you're going to no doubt challenge me on a few of those, but broadly we've had some very, very positive responses from agents who are saying, at last, here is an assessment that compares everybody on a level playing field. And I think that is something which we're really pleased with. I said at the beginning when we launched last year that we won't get it 100% right. And I don't believe anybody with any awards has ever got it 100% right. We will seek to strive to get it there, and each year we hope that we will make significant improvements along the way. But first time out last year, happy with it. This time, even better.
So obviously this is different to the traditional tried and tested method of an industry awards where you may submit an entry, get shortlisted, and then you flog tables and advertisements in a brochure. I mean, do you think that method is flawed?
Well, I think that not assessing the whole of market is the issue that we fundamentally wanted to address. And in order to do that, we couldn't charge people, we can't force people to get involved. So the assessment that we carry out is done completely free of charge. So no agent has to pay anything to be involved, but every agent is involved. We assess every single branch and across each of the models, new models, online, traditional, we assess them all. And we are therefore able to present for the consumer a very robust assessment. And look, we've got three pillars that we were working on. The first, and that's why I set the awards up in the first place 15 years ago, is we want to raise standards in the industry. That's our first sort of objective, and our whole business has been about helping to improve that. Secondly, we wanted to reward the good. There's so much criticism in the media about estate agents, and so we wanted to provide a platform for the good agents to be able to say, actually, we do a really excellent job. And thirdly, we wanted to provide the consumer with a reliable resource that she could go to when thinking about selecting an estate agent to sell or let her property. So those were our three sort of core objectives. And my feeling is only if you do whole of market assessment can you really truly present the best in that way.
So obviously it's important to look forwards, but let's briefly look back at some of the criticisms from last year and how things are possibly changing. I mean, one of the issues some of our readers and some agents raised was the role of Rightmove in the assessment process, and some said that's not what they signed up to the portal for or weren't expecting. What's Rightmove's involvement this year? Okay,
so Rightmove have been fantastic partners to work with, and in fact they were involved with our awards right the way from day one 15 years ago, so we've had a long-standing relationship with them. And when it comes to this assessment, just to get one thing absolutely clear, and I've made this point several times but I'll repeat it, at no point have we ever received the data. So what we did with Rightmove was we compared our consumer research with the consumer research that they'd carried out. And we identified together that actually both surveys, if you like, had revealed the same things, what consumers wanted. So we then created a series of questions that Rightmove effectively asked of the data that they gather, from which Rightmove were able to give us some scores around those questions. So let me give you an example. Do the properties have a floor plan or not? Consumers like floor plans. Okay. Do agents have floor plans? Yes or no? It's a fairly easy one. So Rightmove assessed a whole raft of different data and then provided us with the scores. We commissioned the mystery shops. We did 50,000 mystery shops, and then we married the two pieces together to get the overall outcomes of it. Rightmove are our principal partners for the initiative. They're also our principal partners for the EA Masters event as well. But just to get one thing absolutely clear, there's no financial consideration going to Rightmove in any way, shape or form, and nor do we have access to their data.
So what if you're an agent and you don't want to be assessed and you're not bothered about industry awards or recognition? Can you opt out?
No, it's a whole of market assessment, and that's the whole point behind a whole of market assessment is we're going to look at absolutely everybody, but nobody needs to do anything. So we publish the Best Estate Agent Guide, and it's free. So every single agent that is assessed as being worthy of getting into the guide appears in it for free. There's no charge for entering into the assessment. There's no interview process. There's nothing that an agent needs to do in terms of producing a written submission or going for interview or anything at all. So there's no cost, there's no time factor into it. It's just our assessment, but it is whole of market.
So there's no cost for the agents, but obviously you guys aren't necessarily going to be doing this for free. So how is the event and the awards monetized? Okay,
so once we've carried out the assessment and we've graded agents by three different criteria. They're either exceptional, which is the top 5%, excellent, which is the next 5%, or highly rated, which is the next 10%. And agents can, if they wish to, purchase a license which gives them access to a whole suite of different materials and a whole suite of different marketing initiatives, as well as having an enhanced listing within the Best Estate Agent Guide. But they don't have to do it, and we would not try to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. It's only if they see the value. But the feedback we've had from those agents last year who did take up the license fee is that when it comes to that all-important question which a property owner is going to ask, why would I use you rather than somebody else? For them to be able to point to the Best Estate Agent Guide and say, look, I've been independently assessed as being one of, or if not the best in this particular location, either for sales or for lettings, that could be, and we're told it has been on many occasions, the determinator for whether somebody appoints one agent over another agent. But look, there's a whole suite of things that they get marketing materials wise, but they don't have to. They don't have to pay a license fee. It's very much an optional thing for them to do.
What was the take up last year?
Really good. I mean, look, commercially, we would hope that we're going to get even more people taking it up this year, and it worked for us last year on the numbers that we did, and for a first year out, and people said to me, crikey, you had the Sunday Times Awards for 15 years, really well established. Are you sure about this? And I was like, well, yes, because this is a long-term commitment that we've made. And we did the numbers that we hoped to do in year one, and we're looking to build on that now.
Okay, and so you talk about the whole of market. Does that include online and hybrid agents as well?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. And all models. Look, we're ambivalent towards business models. We're not going to be sitting there in judgment of whether one model is better or not. We're saying, well, how do they perform against the other models based on what the consumer says is most important? And that's, I think, the really important thing here. It's not what one agent thinks is important or even a panel of agents think is important. It's what the consumer thinks is important that we've been assessing and evaluating. And so, online, hybrid, traditional, new, ancient and modern, they're all included.
But is it more difficult to assess an online or hybrid agent because the point at which you may be asking the consumer the question could be different?
Yeah, well, the mystery shop experience is very similar. I mean, it may well be that it's channeled via a different route, so a call centre perhaps, or some other methodology. But the actual consumer experience, do they answer the phone? Was my question answered? Did I receive the information that I wanted? And so on and so forth. I mean, that's the same however you choose to do it. And in fact, many other estate agency models, the so-called traditional or corporate or franchise, I mean, crikey, there's quite a few, isn't there? They also adopt a similar methodology of having a centralised call centre. I'm not making any judgment on whether that's right or wrong. I'm simply interested in conveying the results based on how the consumer finds that.
So tell us a bit about the assessment process.
Okay, so we drew up about a dozen different questions to ask the data. So I've already alluded to one of them. Does it have floor plans, yes or no? Does a property have 5 or more photographs, yes or no? And just as an aside, since last year, in terms of improvements, there's been quite a significant increase in the number of agents actually having a minimum of 5 photographs, or including floor plans. I mean, really quite a significant rise. And the consumers tell us that that's what they want. They want their properties to be really well presented. But more than that, of course, they want their properties sold or let. So we look at that as well, and we say, well, how long did it take? First of all, did it sell or let? And how long did it take to sell or let? We look at things like fall-through rates. Did a property fall through? Did it have to be remarketed as a consequence? So we're looking at a whole raft of data like that. And then when it comes to the mystery shop, very similarly, we look at what was the response like. And I haven't got the analysis yet. Property Industry Eye will get the analysis, I can assure you, after the EA Masters event. But last year, just to give you an indication, 46% of people who called an estate agent's office, our mystery shoppers, in 46% of cases, they weren't asked for their name. So, they do, if that happens, I'm afraid, it's a 0 point for that particular question. But we're here to reward the good. So we're looking to find the best agents, and we only publicise those. So those agents that do the basics really well, they answer the phone, reply to an email inquiry, answer the inquirer's questions, deliver on their promises, they'll score really well. There's no sort of catch. There's no sort of weird thing that we're trying to catch people out on. I refer to it as doing the ordinary extraordinarily well. That's the key to it.
So you're taking the Rightmove data and the mystery shopping results, and then putting together the top 20% of the ones who then get into the guide.
Okay, so we're not taking Rightmove data, we're taking the scores that Rightmove give us from the assessment data. So, I'm sorry to be pedantic, but it's a really important point, and I know that a lot of your readers and viewers today indeed would pick you or I up on that. We don't have the data. We get the scores from the Rightmove analysis of the data. We then marry those up to the scores that we have for the mystery shops, put the two together, and from that we are then able to assess. But can I just make a couple of points, Mark, on the data, which is that we assess based on geography. So we compare like for like. So we don't compare Mayfair with Hull. We compare Hull with Hull, Mayfair with Mayfair. So it's all done in the context of an estate agent's own patch. So I'll give you an example of this, and it's part of the feedback. We've spoken with over 200 agents to get feedback on our methodology and our approach. And one of them was Ian from the Guild of Professional Estate Agents, and Ian Mackenzie. And he said, look, what about a situation where you've got a location that's got a high level of subsidence, for example? Your agents might be tempted not to mark those up as actually sold subject to contract until the survey's been done, which I could see could make a lot of sense. Well, by doing it on an individual patch basis, if that behaviour is appropriate, then my assumption would be that all agents would do that good practice in that area. So it's a like-for-like basis. So therefore, in some locations, time on market might be 10 weeks, 20 weeks or longer. In other locations, it might be 10 days, 20 days or shorter. So it's very much done on an individual patch basis. But when it comes to the mystery shop, did they answer the phone, yes or no? That's got nothing to do with geography. Did they reply to an email, yes or no? Again, nothing to do with geography, price range or anything else. So we've tried to make sure that the assessment is as good as we can get it. But I'm the first to acknowledge that there are flaws to everything, okay? You and I could go and watch a film tomorrow that's won 3 Oscars. And you could walk out and say, it's absolutely the best film you've ever seen. And I might walk out and go, didn't really float my boat. The same might be true of a Michelin star restaurant. You might walk in there and say, oh, it's fantastic. And I go, it wasn't really my cup of tea. So I'm not saying that we've got it 100% perfect, but I'm going to say to you, we're aiming for that. And we've certainly put in place additional checks and additional processes this year to help to raise the bar still further.
So how foolproof is mystery shopping though? Because what if you get an agent on a bad day or a time when someone's on holiday or...
Yeah, well, I'll give you an answer if you don't mind that I've given to somebody else on that. I've got two friends, husband and wife, and they're air traffic controllers. And what's been really great in all the years I've known them is I've never gone round to their house and they've said, oh, we had a really bad day today. And I make that point because ultimately, from a consumer perspective, they're not going to make allowances for an agent having a bad day or a busy day. The consumer is going to evaluate based on the experience she's had on that day. So, quite frankly, with all the different resources available to agents today, all the technology that's available and so on, I see no excuse for why a call isn't answered during working hours. We did all the calls during working hours. We didn't try to catch people out and call at 2 o'clock on Sunday morning. It was all done during working hours. Similarly, all the web-based inquiries done during working hours. We even sought to avoid certain times, like first thing in the morning with morning meetings. We sought to avoid that because we wanted to give everybody a fair chance to demonstrate that how good they are. But I'm afraid when people don't answer their phones and don't reply to their emails, what conclusion would what would a consumer say to that?
What is there that's different about the assessment process this year?
Well, as I said, we've changed some of the criteria. Probably the principal area is to include market share. Now, I want to emphasise that in itself, it isn't the single biggest by any stretch. It's one of the many criteria that we look at. Last year, we didn't take it into account and we received quite a lot of criticism for that. So we've taken that on board and it is one of the factors. However, I want to emphasise to you that that doesn't mean that those agents that choose as a business model to have smaller numbers of listings in an area and to manage those listings perhaps in a more, they would have it, personal way, they are still very, very able to score really well under the assessment. But that's one area that we've taken into account. In fact, it's probably the principal change that we've made.
And what about looking at branches and offices?
Yeah, so last year we just looked at branches. We got a lot of feedback from agents saying, look, we really love the Sunday Times Awards, we wanted to have that. And also there were some issues around, let's say, a brand that was really good in 80-90% of their locations, but perhaps had a newer location which was not yet up to speed. So this year we're going to do the assessment on both an individual branch basis and on an individual brand or company basis. So if a company's got more than one brand, we'll assess each of the brands individually. So when it comes to the EA Masters event, which is where we'll be announcing all the results, we will be giving out awards for, yes, individual branches, but also, and in fact our main focus from the awards perspective will be on the brands stroke companies.
How easy is it to reach every branch and office of an agent?
Well, those who answer the phone and respond to the emails, relatively easy. I mean, every single agent that was a Rightmove customer is included in the assessment. In addition, we have allowed other agents to self-submit, and we have had a number of those who have done it. So our ideal is every single agent, but if an agent isn't on Rightmove and doesn't self-submit, then no, they won't be included in the assessment. But I think it's fair to say that compared to anything else, we pretty much hold a marketplace.
How seriously do you think the public take these awards? Do you think they're bothered by someone having this recognition?
Yeah. So the feedback we've had from agents who have chosen to market and promote their assessment and their attainment within the awards has been that it does make a difference. And I'd use the analogy of going back to the Oscars. A film wins 2 or 3 Oscars, ticket sales immediately go up. I'm sure people will be able to relate to going into an off-licence, looking to buy a bottle of wine, 2 bottles of Malbec side by side. One's got a medal on the bottle, the other one hasn't. Which one do they pick up? If they're the same price point and otherwise the same. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that awards in themselves are the only reason why a consumer would engage an estate agent. But I think it does help them to make a differentiation. Because let's face it, one of the things that the consumer tells us is that estate agents appear to be pretty much the same. Now, agents know, you know, I know that's not the case. But at first impression, it often is. And it's only when you actually then get to work with an agent that you discover whether or not they're any good, to be frank. And unfortunately, no agent has ever, to my knowledge, marketed themselves as saying, actually we're pretty rubbish, but give us a go. Most agents will market themselves and go, we're really good at what we do. Whether they are or not will be for each individual consumer to find out. So what we're looking to do is to help the consumer in that respect by giving them an additional resource to be able to identify which agents in her area are the best for her to sell or let a property at that point in time. And as we carry out the assessment on a 12-month basis, we don't actually regard history in terms of performance. And this is one of the issues that we cited last time regarding comparisons with reviews, for example. An issue with reviews, you or I could go to a hotel and have 6 months apart a completely different experience because the manager's changed or the chef has left or there's some refurbishment works going on and a myriad of other things. So we actually effectively are starting from scratch each time we do this assessment, and past results don't come into play. So we think as a methodology, it's the most robust, has the most rigour of any in the industry. Are we going to keep on working to make it even better? Yes. And no doubt your readers will comment, and no doubt I'll get feedback from lots and lots of my members and other estate agents, and we'll take them all on board.
So what's to stop an agent from keeping up their branding if they won a 2017 award, but then their service dwindled?
Yeah.
What's to stop them just telling them, well, we won in 2017? Would a consumer understand that was historical?
Yeah, well, their licence requires them to remove them, and we will take action accordingly. We actually have the best police force in the world for this, which is other estate agents, and who are very, very keen to highlight to us if anybody was to be in breach by displaying out-of-date materials and so on. So everybody who takes a license and displays the marketing materials, whether it be in their window cards, on the email footers that we supply, on their social sites, there's a whole plethora of stuff. They know when they sign the license that there is a cut-off date, that they cannot display it afterwards.
And so the winners are going to be announced at the EA Masters event.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what attendees can expect then.
Okay, well, this year we've decided to go for it again, and we're going for 2 days as opposed to just the one. So the first day is the 11th of October. And I'm absolutely thrilled. We've brought over, I call him the $10 million agent, a chap called Alexander Phillips. And he's Australia's most successful estate agent. He personally listed and sold properties that earned him a commission of over $10 million last year. So we thought it was too good to have him over just for a short session about his business, which we will have on the second day. We've created a whole workshop on day one, on the 11th, where his business coach, Josh Fegan, who is quite familiar to many people in this country, will interview him and actually make it a really interactive session with the audience to drill down to how on earth do you go about as an individual earning $10 million in commission. And by the way, as a heads up on that, Alex has told me there was nothing. He's a super good-looking guy. He's young. But other than that, there's nothing that he does that is. He hasn't got a Coca-Cola secret formula. He just does certain things really, really well. The ordinary, extraordinarily well. So that's day one on the 11th of October, and then on the 12th we're going to have a speaker lineup which is really, really varied. And the feedback last year, I mean, if you look at Nick Salmon's review, because Nick came along and reviewed the event, the feedback, as Nick said, from every delegate was amazing in terms of the speaker lineup. So we've got a high bar to try to go over, and we've lined up already some outstanding speakers, and we're in conversations with several more before October. And then this year we're reverting back to having the awards presentation during a lunchtime, so a late lunch. So we'll have speaker sessions right the way through till about 1:30. Then we'll have a break while we change the room around, and then we'll go into the awards themselves. But can I just emphasise, because maybe anticipating another question, nobody needs to buy a ticket, right? Nobody. We've had many award winners over the years who have never been to one of our events. I mean, I'd love them to go, because I genuinely think it'd be good for them and for their business. Why wouldn't I? But they don't have to. And we know who the winners are long before the actual day itself. And ticket sales have nothing to do with it whatsoever. So I just thought I'd just nail that one.
That's good. That does take my next question. So you don't need to buy a ticket if you're a winner?
Definitely not.
Will you know if you're a winner before you attend?
For the first time ever, 15 years, we've never done a shortlist. We've been Others do, we don't. We've sort of taken a high stance of, no, we don't publish a shortlist, you have to find out on the day. Agents have told us that really hacks them off. You know, if they haven't won, quite frankly, do they really want to come to the awards? They may want to just come for the seminars only and for the learning experience and to see the innovation hall. We're going to have 50 leading suppliers to the industry in the innovation hall, which it was fantastic last year. But they might not want to come to the awards. That's fine. They can buy a seminar-only ticket and not come to the awards. But if they don't want to come to the awards at all, that's fine. It's their choice, and we will send them their award afterwards. And so we won't announce that before. We are going to announce a shortlist, though. Back to my point. Sorry, we are going to announce a shortlist this year in direct response to agents asking us to. But we're going to trial it. We're going to see what the response is and how people react to it. Because as other agents have said, if we've done well, I want to bring my team down to celebrate and for them to share in the success. So we're going to try it out, but it's in direct feedback to the responses that we've had from agents.
And when will the shortlist be announced?
First 2 weeks of June. I'm not going to get any more specific than that because we are marrying all the different data sets together. There are inevitably a few things that we need to iron out and so on. So I'll give myself a little bit of wiggle room here and I'll say second week of June, but it might be just a bit earlier. But first to hear will be Property Industry Eye. So you will be getting the shortlist.
Great. And where should people go if they want to buy tickets for the EA Masters?
Thank you. Well, we have a dedicated website, which is eamasters.co.uk. And tickets will go on sale there in June. They're not on sale at the moment, although people can register their interest. And if they'd like to go, and we'll have a combination of seminar only and also a whole day event tickets, so they can choose what they want to. But I emphasise again, they don't have to. It's going to be a damn good day, a damn good couple of days, and they really should.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
I suppose would want to say, look, I set this up originally because I was really hacked off with the media criticism of estate agents. And I've been an estate agency all my life. It's what I left school, I became an estate agent. Don't ask me how many A-levels I got, because that may tell you why. But I've been in this industry all my life, and I was hacked off with what I felt to be totally unfair criticism of estate agents, which is why I set the first awards up. And, it's been a long process of refining and improving. And then last year, we decided rather than having version 1.16, we jumped to 2.0. Some would say we maybe even went to 3.0, missed out a whole sort of section by going whole of market. And I'm absolutely wanting to take on board any and all feedback, criticisms, positives, negatives, the lot. And we will listen to everybody, their viewpoint. Our goal is to have an assessment that fundamentally encourages the raising of standards in the industry. Secondly, rewards the good to counter so much of this negative criticism. Because you and I both know there are some damn good estate agents out there who really, I think, deserve to be recognised for the hard work that they do. And thirdly, yes, to provide the consumer with a reliable resource to go to. And those were from the start our three sort of pillars. They remain our three pillars, with the consumer right at the heart of it in terms of what she deems to be important in terms of the process. Those things won't change, but we will seek year on year on year to make it better and better and better and better. As I think it's fair to say, and people have told me, we've managed to do for 15 years with the old awards.
Okay, Peter Knight, thank you very much.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. Lovely to meet you.